How you doing, trappers? Ed Schneider from Kansas Trapline Products, coming to you from the state of Maine. I'm out here going after the Fisher and the Marten up here in the north woods of Maine. Being a flatlander myself, it's going to have some challenges as I go through my day. Stay with me, right along with me on this journey as I fulfill a bucket list to go catch the Marten and the Fisher up in the big north woods. Okay, trappers, I'm on this Marten line here in Maine, and I like the area kind of behind me here. I want to put in a set, and I want to talk about a little bit about what I'm using and that type of thing, because you have to use an exclusion box to keep the lynx out of it. So let me show you, I'll show you exactly what I'm using here and how the tools I'm using to catch them. Okay, so to talk about some of the tools we're using for Marten and Fisher here in Maine, again, you got to keep out the lynx. That's the purpose behind this. It has made it more challenging from everything guys are talking about. But I want to show you two different types of exclusion boxes. There is a minimum requirement from the opening to the trap itself. Guys want to make sure you get your, everything I'm understanding, and of course I'm a new trapper up here, but you want to make sure your springs are all the way against the back, because if they slide forward, because this is how it's gonna fire, it's leaving this open, and that you got to worry about that you don't end up having that trap kind of be a little creep forward. Otherwise, you're going to be in violation of the distance. Now, this is a side entry door. You can go with a larger opening on a side entry door for the traps. I've heard, I believe from Jeremiah on his Trappin' Today podcast, he talked about how his success was down some with the side entry door, but the idea behind the bigger door, the advantages is you're trying to get a much bigger animal such as the Fisher. The Pine Marten, no problem, from everything I'm understanding, going into the smaller box. But when you get into the Fisher, you have to deal with it. But now they have to turn a corner. That's what you're asking them to do. They got to turn the corner in there. So let me go ahead and I'll show you the second box. Now this box is a little bit shorter in size, but it does meet the requirements. It's the same length from the opening to the trap, but you extend that out to allow that side opening. On this box here, the man who owns these, I'm borrowing them, but it's a 4-inch hole. Now you can go square, you can turn that on a diamond, that type of a thing, but whichever direction you want to go is you want to make sure there that you don't exceed that 4-inch opening. Now them little old, I was talking there with John, and it was very interesting where he was saying he's seen them old them Marten go in through a hole in a pine knot, so they can slide into a whole lot. So this isn't a problem for the Marten, but to a female Fisher, she can probably get in from everything I'm gathering. And it's the big blockhead male Fisher, that's what that's the part there that trappers are trying to figure out how to catch them, and the way that they're trying to do it a lot is with the bigger box. So anyway, as I'm understanding it, I'm up in the north woods, and the farther up in the mountains you can get, the better the Marten harvest will be. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, as I'm working my way up the mountain. But I found this great spot here, and I want to get a set in. And let me show you what's inside of the box, how it's set up, and how we're going to bait and lure this. Okay, so I'm ready to bait this up. Let me grab my knife, and I've been catching quite a few beaver, and beaver meat is, everything I understand, is the preferred meat. Now myself, this one doesn't have any wire in it or a stake in it, so I'm going to drop it in, but I'm going to give them a generous amount because even if I don't get them, they'll want to come back. Now I'm putting them in 2 pieces so they just can't rob and leave with the whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 pieces of beaver in there. the next thing I want to do is I'm putting in, I actually researched a couple of things on marten, what they like, what they don't like. And so anyway, I made up a marten call. It's a castery odor, and it's got some things in it to make it kind of want to climb out of the box. And I'm going to smear that on the upper side right here in the box. Get them coming into that. And then, because I'm also hoping for a Fisher on the inside of the box, I can, and by the way, the trap I'm using is a 120 conibear. So that's just gonna, let me get it unhooked, I'll show you. That's gonna just go ahead and, them old conibears, there we go. So I'll just be able to go and put that conibear right in the box, and I'll put it where the trigger's on the underside of the trap for when they enter, so they climb over the trap. And if you also notice how the triggers are bent, not quite a 90-degree angle, but they're bent. And that way that the animal, when they come in, they climb over them, thus triggering it. So this is done. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go and put some Fisher call right here at the mouth of it. Now it is a very sweet odor. Got a nice anise zing. So I'm going to smear that inside the box near the opening, just to get them a little bit closer, a little bit more committed going into the box. And once they're in, then I think they'll go onto the back. That's the hope anyway, right? Now I'll also turn that around, and I am experimenting. I haven't had what they call a long distance call. Kansas call LDC is, but it's a little different formation. But I'm coming up with a different one, and what I've done is I'm just simply, I have some of this inside of the Vaseline to kind of help it stick. You could use this also, and of course I'm trying this year, so I wouldn't sell any of this to you unless I had some kind of a proven record. So that's what this is about, is trying it, experimenting with it, making sure that the product works before it ever gets in your hands. So let's go on into the woods. Let's look and find that spot. But I'll show you real quick what I'm looking at. And I'm coming up this road here, and you notice the thickness of the trees and the darkness of the trees. And we got a bend here in the road, and I found a nice pull out. But you also see how dark it is inside of there? That's desirable. So what I'm going to be looking for is somewhat of a salient feature within the woods. That way I can find a good spot to put my box, because you know, just whether you're in the open plains of Kansas, you're looking for salient features. We're also looking for them within the woods, something that would draw the attention of the marten. So let's go check it out. Okay, getting into this spot's kind of like a fat man squeeze is what it is, and this fat man couldn't fit everywhere. Anyway, this is my last pre-baited marten set, and we'll see if anything got in it. But it's a great location. And behind the camera here is a brook and a dead-end bridge where the road doesn't cross any farther. So let's see what I got and see if anything's gone for the bait. What a great location, though. This is one of my closer. The vehicle's not very far. A lot of these I have to walk, 50 yards or so, but this one worked out to where I didn't have to do that. The location was right here. And I still got bait in it, but that's all right. We'll stick a couple more fresh pieces of beaver meat versus the preserved stuff. We'll see if that catches their attention. I got a lot of faith in old John steered me right. I know he did. There we go. We'll put a little marten call in it. Good and castery. I'm using about that much, a nice dollop. And I'm going to use about the same amount with my Fisher call and Fisher gray fox call. There we go. It's almost edible. Minus an ingredient or two, it could be. All right. Put that in there. Let's get this out of the way. We don't need it. And here it is. I'll go ahead and run my cable around this tree. It's still plenty solid. And get that done. The guys from Maine used to put these up in the trees, you know. They done it a couple ways. They done the leaning pole set. Then they switched over to a box on the tree. And now they're reserved to using these exclusion. If I put a foothold in here, I'd probably catch a fisher. And that's a whole day of work waiting for the Fish and Wildlife to show up and release the animal, because you can't release them here on your own. That looks a little pretty good. Let's see if I can get it on the first try on this one. Safeties are still on. You know what? This is bent the wrong way. Let me let it out. It should be bent the other way, because you want them to step over the bent wires to climb over, and then their weight will just trip the trap as they belly it. There we go. I'm getting them going the right way now. I actually hear a vehicle coming down. I haven't heard or seen one for quite a while. There we go. But it's hunting season. There we go. We got it. Let's set that in. Triggers, the safeties are off. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit to let it fire. There we go. And gently putting it back. There we go. Let me go ahead and put a quick attach on here. With beaver trapping, I kind of noticed that it isn't so much about not knowing where to put a trap, it's more about the work it takes to get to the trap. With marten trapping, it's a little bit the same way. It's not so much, you just got to lug this big old box up. There we go. I have that set up. We'll cover the shiny. Get that covered. And let me go back and put some of my stuff back on it. Whatever I did with it. I put my bag on, that's what I did. Let me get some of this. Cover my box up. And then we'll put ourselves a little bit of this chaff on it. Kind of age it in. I don't, just mainly to keep them looking natural. Keep them from climbing on top of the box. That's the purpose behind it. All right, that's probably good enough. So, I'm moving on. I'm moving on to new prospects, and I can finally start getting some of these other boxes out of the back of my truck. So let's keep on moving, guys.